third video in the series that's going to demonstrate how to use Fusion 360 to create cam posts for your CNC machine. Now, if we take a look at what my project is here that I'm trying to create, it is essentially a two-dimensional sign. So it has text in the middle. It has a tracing line that I'm going to be following to create essentially a line. And afterwards, I'm actually going to paint the outside black that the line, the V-cut, will allow. And you'll see what that'll look like here. But generally, when I'm doing CNC, I like to work from the inside out. I like to do my contours or my cutting out of the, entire piece of wood at the very end. I think that's generally necessary because at that point, there's only a few tabs or there's very little holding power in the machine. So you want to do all your work, all your text, all your details on the inside before you cut it out. So the first thing I'm going to do is this text, and I'm going to use the engrave under the two-dimensional toolbar here. This sign is essentially two-dimensional, so I'm not going to be using any of the 3D. I'm not drilling holes, so everything I'm going to do is going to be in this area right now. Now, you can see up here at the top, there's actually, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing something that other than milling, there are different operations based on that, but we're doing milling, so we're going to stay here. So the first thing I'm going to do is engrave. So we use V-shaped tools to engrave. Now I already have V-bits loaded in. I have 60s and 90s. I'm going to use one of my 60s for this. You can see here, I get a preview of the tool. I have all my tool information loaded as well, which you'll see comes in here. Probably want to give that a double check, but this is the material I cut very frequently. This is plywood. I use pretty much the same settings on a soft wood like pine, white pine, which we cut quite a bit too. If you were doing something harder, you're doing a hardwood, or you're doing something specifically soft, you would really want to go in and change the cutting data, either moving faster or slower, depending on what you're doing. So that's the first bar in the menu is for your tool. The second one is your geometry. So you need to tell the computer what it is that you want to cut. So I'm going to select my letters that I want to cut out here. And with the A, make sure you also grab the inside. There's a few letters in the alphabet you have to select both parts of. That's all I need in this tab. Layers is very important because it needs to know how far down to cut. Now the V-bits is kind of unique in that it populates that automatically, but if we're using an end mill, we would have to tell it how far down we wanted to cut. So that bottom height is something that you have to pay close attention to on other, in most cases. This is not one of them. The passes tab, I'm not going to mess with any information here. I'm not doing multiple depths, and linking, everything is good here. So I'm going to kind of run with most of the defaults in this case. And if you're not sure about something, the best part about Fusion is you can just hover over it and it gives you a pretty good explanation. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to take that. That's fine. That's just give me a warning. There's lots of warnings in this program. All right, so we can see here, it gives me a preview of what it looks like. You can see the lines represent tooling paths, and I'm going to go ahead and run, and there is a warning here, the one I just clicked OK, and it's telling me the diameter doesn't match. The yellow or orange warnings are different than the red warnings. It's just saying there's a problem, but it'll still cut, it'll still work. You can see here this whole piece of wood. I'm going to come and do simulations after I create all three of my operations. So my second operation is going to be a tracing operation. So it's going to follow this line and create nice little feature. So I'm going to select trace. I'm actually going to use the same bit because I want another V line. So it's going to have all the preset information, which I'm still going to go with. Now for curve selections, what I did is I actually traced inside a little bit further down. As you can see here, when I kind of look at the side of the object, you can see it's not at the top surface. And that's just using trace, something that I find works well, and it's easy to do in the design phase. Okay, I've got my closed chain. It's going to pick up that for the heights as well, kind of like it did for engrave. I'm going to turn chamfering off. And other than that, I'm running with the stock. It's going to give me the same warning, but all the defaults I think are going to work fine right there. As you can see here, it gives me a preview of what it's going to look like. And I'm going to run a full sim after I'm done with everything. But I could run sims on just these specific operations. If you right click on the operation, you will see there's simulates here. But I usually like to simulate the whole setup unless I'm having problems with one specific operation. Now the last one we're going to do is a contour, and that's going to be what cuts it out. And obviously I'm going to have to use a different bit. I'm going to go with my tried and true 1/4 inch end mill, and I'm going to go with the down cut in this regard. So the down cut's going to leave a cleaner surface. You can get an upcut to be relatively clean depending on what material you're cutting, but since this is going to be plywood, it has a tendency to flake up. You could do something like put painter's tape on the top to try and support that top layer, but I find a down cut just works really well. One of the only trade-offs is it doesn't evacuate chips very well, but those chips actually support the material from breaking tabs and moving around as well. So another benefit to it. I'm going to select I'm going to go with the bottom here, the bottom edge of the perimeter. Now I am going to be putting tabs, which as you can see, the tabs are little pieces that keep it connected to the larger piece of wood so that it doesn't break loose while it's cutting. And that almost always ends up with, some bit damage around the outside. So let's see, tab width. My go-to for tab width is a 1/2 inch wide, 1/8 inch tall, and I like to space them out quite a bit. Oh, not 5 inches, that's a half. Decimals are important. And let's see, what does 8 inches look like? Yeah, just based on my experience, I would say that number of tabs is going to work fine, especially with using a downcut bit is going to add some more support in there as well. I'm not going to use any other of the tool options at this point. For selected contours, this is important in the layering area that you tell it how far down you want to cut. I could select stock bottom, but what I really like to do is select the bottom itself. I just find that's a little bit more consistent. As you can see, the bottom layer is 3/4 inch down. The other thing you could do here is you could go stock top minus 0.75. That works too. That'll get you to the same place. Just that is one area where I have noticed a little bit of challenge with Fusion is getting the bottom height to be where you want it. So selection's a good one. You can mathematically go from the top, stock top to, just something to be aware of. I'm going to be working in multiple depths. With this being 3/4 inch thick, with my kind of entry-level amateur machine of the Shark HD5, it's rigid-ish, but I don't want to cut any deeper consistently, maybe once in a while, but I don't want to cut any deeper than the diameter of my bit. It's kind of the rule of thumb. If I had a bigger, heavier machine that I was using, I could probably go twice the diameter and still be fine. But I'm going to go multiple depths, check that box, and put the diameter of the bit in here. I do like ramping as well. So on the next tab, I'm going to select ramping. The defaults generally work fine. We'll see how the lead ins and outs work. As long as it leads in and out from the outside and not the inside, that'd be fine. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like here. All right, so we get another look at what the simulation is going to look like. And let's go ahead and go do the sim now. So if I go up